Ladies and gentlemen, as you might know, today's the magic day where you will see another video made by me straightly for you, only for you, so you can enjoy it and have a good time while learning new things about new watches. And today's topic is gonna be really, I'm gonna say basic, because it's one of the first things you think about or you start having thoughts about when you are thinking about building a collection. And that's also something that you will try to find a new style and your personal style whenever you get from the beginner to the advanced level. And it's gonna be the question, which daily beater should I get? And when I first started buying and collecting watches, the first thing I did is I bought a watch that I can wear daily. And that's something that a lot of people do not usually do like this. A lot of people I know started with the Apple Watch, the really classic digital watch, and the first watch that they bought that's gonna be something special that they are going to spend more money in was mainly when they wanted to buy a watch for special occasions, sometimes a dress watch. But if you're talking about the real luxury market, if you're talking only about watches that you can consider at least entry luxury level, then you will see that there is a big choice and big variety of different watches that you could use potentially as a daily beater. And one of the criteria that I used to identify if that could be a good daily beater was if it has a steel bracelet or not, because for me, leather strap takes away the versatility that a daily watch should have. It makes it more, you need to replace the strap every few years at least, so you're gonna have trouble and you're gonna have work with the watch, and that's something you don't want with a daily beater. But I had an interesting conversation with a client a few days ago that, to explain the situation, he bought a Vacheron Constantin Patrimony Traditionnel, and for me that usually was a watch that you would get as an alternative to a dress watch from Patek Philippe. But for him it was really clear he wanted to wear that watch every day. It's gonna be his daily beater, even though it is made of white gold. It has a leather strap, and it's a very special watch. It's a watch that you normally, if you think about luxury watches, you will think about 10 watches immediately, and it's not gonna be that one. And the reason why he got it is what inspired me to do that video, because he said he wants to have a watch that he can wear daily, that he can wear in all occasions. And one of the most important things for a daily watch, for him especially, was that you cannot recognize it as easily. Of course, he said if he is at a collector's event, then he wants to get recognized, he wants people to see what he wears. But he said as long as he is in his private or in his business environment, he doesn't want people to recognize the watch that he wears. He doesn't want them to know that he spends a lot of money on watches. So that's why he got that one, because it is a very good name. Vacheron Constantin is and will stay one of the biggest and nicest brands when we're talking about high luxury in the watch business. But it's also a watch that you do not recognize immediately. It's not like the Overseas, it's not like a Nautilus, it's not like the Royal Oak, or every Rolex that you can imagine, because at the end of the day, every Rolex is recognized almost immediately. And that is something that for a lot of people makes a watch wearable in the daily use or not wearable. It's because, especially in Middle Europe, at least that's what I heard from other people from Middle Europe, but in Germany, in Austria and other Middle European countries, it's really hard if you possess something that's very valuable, that is very expensive. You will have trouble enjoying it, because most people around you will start making troubles. They will stop buying from you. I heard that from a lot of people that are blue collar. They basically say that nobody wants me to build in a new sink in their kitchen when I come to the appointment to discuss everything, and I wear a watch that's more expensive than their kitchen. So most people will avoid to have a watch on their wrist that is too expensive whenever they are in their business environment. And that is something that I can completely understand. For me, of course, and luckily I don't have that problem, because my business requires me almost to wear expensive watches. But I can imagine that if you work in the bank, or if you work at a big company at a position that's not the CEO of the company, you will always have people, colleagues or even business partners starting to talk down on or starting talk badly about you because of, I wouldn't say it's just envy or jealousness. I would say that it's a mix of different things, but at the end of the day, most people in at least Middle Europe, as I said earlier, will give you a bad time if you wear something that's so expensive. So a lot of people and a lot of clients that I have decide to buy watches that are not as present, not as popular, not as hyped, so that people do not recognize them. And normally, if we would not have this criteria when deciding what watch we would get for the daily use, normally I would always go with a Rolex. Get a steel watch, of course, because it's more durable, it's more, you can polish it more easily, you will not get scratches so easily. So that's what I would get if I would get a daily beater, and if I didn't have the criteria that I mentioned earlier. And of course I would get a Rolex because the movements are an absolute joy. They are not so artistic, not so technologically advanced, but they have one thing that a lot of other movements do not have. They are absolute units. You cannot break down a Rolex movement by normal use. It's almost impossible. I've seen some Rolex models that are 30 years old, 35 years old. I have a good client of mine who has a Datejust 36 with the reference 16013. The bracelet, he bought it at the AD a few decades ago. He never serviced this watch, and when we put it on the time scale, we didn't see anything that shouldn't be as it is. The amplitude was good, the beat error was good, and of course the daily accuracy was also more than okay. It was at around +4 seconds, which is absolutely okay for a watch of this age, and really good if you consider that it was not serviced for almost 40 years. So that's also a reason why I would always go for a Rolex. But if you have trouble wearing Rolex at your work because you, for example, work with other people, you are not in a position where it's acceptable to wear a watch so expensive, then you're gonna have to get a different brand and different models than the ones I mentioned earlier. And for me, for example, a watch that works perfectly as a daily beater is the Omega Seamaster in every variation that you can imagine, because you can combine it with almost everything. They are not too expensive, and Omega has a beautiful and a very good quality when it comes to producing watches. So of course you can always get a watch that doesn't meet the standards, the quality standards of Omega themselves. Then you can service it and they come back beautifully and in perfect condition. But the thing is, why would I get Omega? Because of quite some reasons. Omega is a brand that nobody will get jealous of because it's not as popular, not as hyped up as Rolex. They are less expensive, and they are also producing in a very high quality. And the thing that Omega has that a lot of other brands don't have, for example, if I take now just out of the blue, if I take Parmigiani, if I take Moser, if I take Glashütte Original, or even other brands like, what do we want to take, Panerai or something. Of course, they also produce beautiful watches, and they have also an insane quality at least in their higher quality pieces. But the thing is, Omega is a brand that also everybody knows, but nobody knows that it's so expensive, or at least it's not so well known. So just think of yourself in this situation. You're wearing a Rolex and you meet someone, and the person you're meeting is like, oh my, you got a Rolex? Is that a Rolex on your wrist? Oh no, let's change that. Actually, let's change the situation. Just imagine you're going through the streets and somebody asks you, oh, is that a Rolex? So explain me, will you have a good feeling when someone asks you if you are wearing a Rolex? And on the other hand, imagine someone asking you, is that an Omega? Is that a Speedmaster? Is that a Moonwatch? So for me, it's clear that if somebody asks me for a Moonwatch, if that's a Moonwatch, for me, that's a clear sign. Okay, he knows some things about watches, but the Moonwatch can range anywhere from 2.5 to unlimited amounts of money. So even though he knows, he sees, he recognizes it's a Moonwatch, he will not instantly know that it's worth a lot, if it is worth a lot. But with Rolex, it's even if you wear a 3,000-4,000 euro Datejust, an old one in a really bad condition, then even then you will always have people seeing the watch and being like, oh, that's gotta be 10,000 euros at least. And that's a misconception, of course, because you can get an Omega for 40, 50, 60,000 euros, and at the same time you can get a Rolex for under 5,000 euros. But the thing is that most people will associate Rolex with a very high value. So that's why for me, at least after talking with this guy, Rolex can only be a good daily beater if you are in a field, if you're operating in a field or working in a field where it doesn't matter if people see that you're making good money. For me, that's classic for people with a very high academical level. So for example, if you are a triple doctor and engineer, you have 2 companies on your name, nobody's gonna complain that you have a Daytona. Nobody's gonna say, okay, it's not deserved, I think it could be fake. Nobody will think about that. But on the other hand, if you are working as a dentist, if you're working as a lawyer or in any other field that requires you to work with people a lot, and especially external people not working at your company, then you will have to be a little bit more humble with your presentation of yourself. At least that's how it works in Germany. And I can always just repeat myself. I think in other countries it's the complete opposite, where a lot of people will appreciate you as a professional if you show that you are living greatly from what you do. So that's a approval of your work and of your profession, that you can afford to have luxury items, so you cannot be bad at what you're doing. In Germany it's quite the opposite. If you have something very expensive that a lot of people want, then you must be a criminal or it must have been stolen, especially if you're young. That's a big problem, at least here as well. I cannot count how many people already thought that I am just rocking fake stuff. So it is what it is. People will think what they want. But that is what I wanted to say about daily watches. If we go into more criteria, what can make a watch good choice for a daily basis. So another point that is very important when you're trying to find the perfect daily watch for you is the waterproofness. Just think like this. There are people that are working with a lot of water in their daily life. For example, if you're a hydraulic, or if you are working in a kitchen, in an environment where you need to wash your hands a lot, all the time. If you are working in a medical field, those are jobs, or in the gastronomy, if in a restaurant, then you will have to wash your hands almost constantly. And if you have a watch that's not waterproof at all, like zero waterproof, a real dress watch with maybe 1 ATM, it's gonna be very, very, very hard for the watch, because even though it's theoretically you can wear it even when washing hands, if you have bad luck and the watch falls in the sink and it's completely underwater, you can get water in your watch. So you will try to avoid getting a watch that's not waterproof if you're working with a lot of water. Especially, I don't know, if you're a lifeguard at the beach, of course you're not gonna take a dress watch, you're gonna go with a more sporty watch. So in your daily life, if you're not working with any water, then I don't see the reason why you should be so focused on the waterproofness. In the end of the day, if you have 3 ATM, 30 meters, then that's gonna be more than enough for most situations you're in. So no need to have a diver's watch for, I don't know, watering plants or whatever. So that's also something you have to consider. For me, what's also very important for a daily watch is the material, because if you're gonna go for a complete gold watch, even though a lot of people will say, okay, a gold watch cannot be a daily beater because very soft material, it gets scratched easily and it's so expensive. Why would you wear something so expensive daily? Well, there are people that can afford to wear a 20, 30, 40,000 euro watch every day and just sell it or let it be repaired every 3 or 4 years. So there are people that can afford it, and there I would also say that it's not a criteria what material the watch has. It's more the question, what are you going to do with the watch? Because if you are working with your hand, for example, a carpenter, if you are, for example, an electrician or a mechanic, then you might consider getting a watch that's made of steel, where you can, even if you scratch it, you can polish it easily. You're gonna have big problems polishing a Titan watch, for example. You will see, if you have one, you will see that getting a Titan watch polished is gonna be a hard task. A lot of people do not offer it, and if it's gonna be polished, not only with a matte finish, you need to ask yourself, is what I'm wearing suiting what I'm doing here? So if you are working on the desk, it's easier to wear a gold watch or a watch with a leather strap. If you are working with your body, for example, as I said, or if you're a gym trainer, or if you are a professional, I don't know, there are a lot of jobs that require you to work physically, then you would prefer a watch with a massive metal bracelet and not a leather strap, or you would get a rubber strap. So that's something that you need to consider as well. And if I'm thinking about very physical work, if I'm talking about a mechanic, electrician or something, I would always go for a Omega Seamaster, because the Seamaster is always immune for magnetic fields. They are really good protected. The movements are very reliable. It is waterproof. It is made of you can get also the Seamaster, of course, in gold or Titan, but if you get it in steel, you have a very stable thing. You can change the straps. You can change from the rubber strap to a steel bracelet, and that's something that also makes the watch more versatile, which makes it a lot easier wear to different occasions. So in my opinion, the Seamaster might be one of the best daily beaters for everybody, just like the Tudor Black Bay 58. For example, also a great watch because you can also change the straps relatively easy. A watch that a lot of people consider as a beginner's watch is, for example, the Cartier Santos. That's something that I wouldn't get as a first watch, even though my first one was a Cartier Santos, but I'm gonna explain to you why I wouldn't get a modern one. It's because the bezel looks horrendous. After a few months of wearing, you will start getting fed up with the scratches on your bezel, so you want to get it polished, and that's something where a lot of people start being unhappy with their watch. So you would also want to get a watch that's gonna stay beautiful as long as you want. And something that is very good for this exact reason is a ceramic bezel, and that's something that you will find more with modern watches, and also something that the Seamaster, for example, has. If you have a steel bezel or a gold bezel, the steel bezel is of course more durable than the gold one, but they both get scratched, and of course you will not be happy if it looks like it was used heavily. So that's why I would also get a watch that you can, where the bezel is not so sensitive, where you can also wear it daily without the watch looking like it was worn 50 years after just a few months of wearing. So that's also one of the criteria when deciding to get your daily beater. And I think that's gonna be the last one as well for today. I think the video is long enough for the moment. If you like this video, you can also comment and ask for more. I can also find other criteria that you have to consider when you want to buy your first watch, or if you have any other ideas or want to have my opinion or our opinion about anything, just let us know and we will make a video to entertain you, of course. And of course, we are happy to share videos with you as often as possible. We appreciate greatly a follow, thumbs up and everything to support us. And if you want to see more content, you can also visit our Instagram channel. I was very, very happy to have you here today, and I will see you next time for the next video. See you.